Well, blessings, everybody, and welcome to Ignite Humanity Live. I'm your host, Lady JB Owen, and we're talking about ways to ignite humanity and how you, that's right, you, sitting there wherever you are in the world, wherever you're doing, you have the ability to ignite humanity. And this show is all about inspiring you to feel like igniting humanity is something you want to do because it's an inside job. It starts with each and every one of us. We have the ability to ignite our lives and do the things that we love and step into the greatest version of ourselves. And when we do that, we absolutely give the opportunity for others to do the same. And so what I love to do on the show is bring forth amazing guests that are doing wonderful things in their life based on an ignite moment. Something happened to them that inspired them to do something different and do something new and move into working more towards igniting humanity. There comes a time in everyone's life where they realize it isn't just all about me. What can I do to inspire and help others? And that's what this show is really about. If we're going to ignite humanity, we have to care about one another. And one of the number one ways to create caring and empathy is through storytelling. While we tell our authentic real life stories, while we share our journey and what we've been through, we actually awaken people to the idea that their story is also the lead for them to step into their version of themselves, their greatest version of how they can utilize what they have learned and what they have been through to do something magnificent in the world. Little tiny things are all magnificent and they create great ripple effects. And so we love to talk to guests around the globe who are doing powerful things. All right, sit back, get comfortable, because we've got an amazing guest we're going to introduce to you. Rose Amaru is a spiritual counselor, somatic practitioner, and ritual artist. She became ordained with the Temple of Isis. I'm going to mess this up again. Islam of Camara in 2019, and continues to use ritual dance as a transformational technique. Rose is the host of the podcast, The Sex, Spirituality, and Psychedelic Show, a theta practitioner, workshop presenter, retreat facilitator, public speaker, and international best-selling author. She has worked with serpent medicine to shed and release, as well as activate and align the energy bodies. Rose is currently supporting women to reclaim their crown and come into a life of prosperity and purpose. We're so happy to have her here. Welcome, welcome, and welcome to the show. I'm sure a lot of people heard that intro and that bio, and they're like, wow, I want to lean in and find out more about that. Rose, tell us a little bit, what's the favorite thing you love to do? What are you really passionate about in making sure that women are empowered?
Yeah, what I'm really passionate about is really supporting women to be in the present moment, to be in their bodies, and to not let things that have happened in the past pull them out of the moment and out of their pleasure, out of what's really happening right here, right now. And, as women, we are the matter, the mother. And as we come into our bodies, that is what is coming into our sacred temple, our sacred being, which allows us to really go forth and create works of beauty. And that's really
important. Sorry to cut you off. I apologize. It is an important conversation, and I'm excited because as a woman, I know, and working a lot in the masculine energy and a lot in the do energy, there's this real power in the being energy. So share a little bit. I know there's lots of women who are watching the show who are thinking like, how do I get into that space?
Yeah, how do we get into the space of being able to be present with the moment? And I think a lot of that is this process of self-knowledge, of understanding which voice within us are we speaking from? Am I speaking from my adult voice? Am I speaking from my hurt inner child? Am I speaking from my raging wild woman? And so to really realize which part of ourselves are we speaking from, and coming back into regulation when we are uncertain of if we're really coming forth in the way in which we would intend from a calm space.
Actually, I like that a lot because it's true. Sometimes we are speaking from the little girl in us. Sometimes we're speaking from exactly the mother in us, or the sort of the maternal part of us, even the sage in all of us. And so recognizing how I'm speaking or where I'm coming from, or sort of what lens I'm using, how does that help me in regards to igniting humanity?
Sure. Well, in this situation, as you speak to the sage, there's different things that somebody can do in order to activate themselves and be ready to be a stream for knowledge to come through. For example, you and I have both gotten ourselves ready for the day. We've become beautiful, and not that we aren't beautiful already, but there's a certain process of adornment which any woman, any person can do. A little shift in your mentality to really bring yourself forth and ready to share your gifts for the day. And so instead of just putting on the makeup and doing the teeth, I like to think of it as a process of ritual adornment. As I
Mm.
brush my hair, I become the ascent of Inanna coming back from the underworld, from the little death of the sleep. And I put on my cuffs to remind me of my service. I put on my lipstick to remind me to speak the sacred words. I put on my eyeshadow so that I can see truly in the world. And so with a little bit of intention, any act can become a ritual that will allow you to embody the energies in which you intend.
And what I heard you say really was about enjoying that too, like enjoying taking care of yourself and enjoying adorning yourself, because sometimes we're just going through the motions and we're just doing it because, well, that's what the magazines say, or that's what social media says, or that's what we think we should do. Is there ways that we can be more intentional as women with our morning ritual or even our evening rituals?
Absolutely, absolutely. And so as I mentioned, with the intention of adding the makeup, this with this eyeliner, I intend to see what is truly there. I intend to only allow those energies to come into my soul that I permit. And so something like that would be really powerful. When we're eating, we are literally consuming that energy at that time. And so absolutely, with the prayer, with the grace, that is something that really brings us back into what are we actually putting in our bodies. If we're stressed out trying to get to work, eating on the road, that all that stress is coming into our bodies. And so what's recommended is to have a screen-free time, really sit down and intend, I'm putting gratitude into my
Mm.
body. I'm putting devotion into my body, and really recognizing myself as part of a greater picture of things, which I can also be supported from.
I love that so much. I started wearing these when I went to India, and now I wear them all the time because actually they make me feel smarter. They make me feel that my brain is wrapped in love and beauty, and they actually remind me to think in a more beautiful fashion, in a more beautiful way, in a more heartfelt way, with a little bit more intention, a little bit more calm, a little bit more peace and harmony. Is there a way that, today is all about inspiration, that we can inspire one another to be doing this? I know a lot of times we mirror each other in our experiences. Do you have some suggestions how we can maybe have this with our sisters, our mothers, our daughters, other women in society, and we can inspire them in the same way?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think the first level is always going to be about embodying that yourself, of stepping
Mhm.
into the practice deeply and really feeling it. And then when people become inspired by the way that you do it, then there's the opportunity to invite others into that. Can you want to come over for dinner? Let's make a
Mm.
new moon ritual dinner to support us through the next cycle, and do it with that intention and that prayer.
Mm.
Or having, like, a girl's makeup photo shoot, and here we are, we're going to embody our inner goddess, and we'll put it on ritually, as these accoutrement of the goddess within. And so
Mm.
that's a really fun thing that brings connection and community, and can be done in a fun way that's not too, like, didactic.
I love that. What a great word. I love that, accoutrement. Let's shift gears a little and talk about somatic healing. Some people don't always know what that word means. Can you share how that is part of your practice?
Sure. So somatics loosely refers to things that have to do with the body. And so many of us women, especially, have experienced something that has been a challenge or traumatizing for the body to work through. And within our culture, we don't really have a way of letting go of these things. So, for example, if you see a child running out to the street and there's a car coming, we might go, and, like, hold our breaths a little bit. Okay. And so there's this tightness and this tension that's in the body. And so, maybe you yell stop and they do stop, but there's still this, like, tightness and tension in there. And so whereas, an animal in the wild that might see a predator and then runs away, they would go, "Ugh," shake it off. Okay. And then
Mhm.
that tension is released. And so anything from sexual trauma to road trauma to all of these things, um, when it's held in the body is actually when it becomes trauma. So at first it's like a tension point, but if we are unable to let it go, then that tension remains in the body and comes back to haunt us basically. And
Mm.
so the somatic work allows to work out of the body all these things that have been really challenging and difficult. And so what I've noticed within my own system is in reaction to some really challenging things that have happened, I've had my body tense up through
Mm.
touch from people that love me, that care about me,
Mhm.
and really want to give me their loving devotion. And I've had, even a hand on my shoulder, unexpected, tense, tie up, wall closed, and unable to connect. And so that can be extrapolated to, all different parts of the experience of connection. And when we work somatically through these things, it allows an opening to receive love. It allows an opening to be present in this moment. Um, and there's a way that only somatic work can really treat. And so I've talked to people that have done work for 10 years talking to their
Mm.
therapist. They
Mhm.
can say, I understand exactly why I have this pattern. My dad did this person touched me here, where, when, and understand their whole process, and yet still go through the same cycle, even with the mind knowing exactly what happened. So
Mhm.
so it's really powerful to be able to actually shift this out of the body. And sometimes through somatic work, we don't even need to know what happened. And one of my teachers likens it to taking out the garbage without going through every single piece in the bag, right? So
Right.
we move the tension out of the body, and then we don't have to look at all of those hardships that we've experienced in life.
Are there some small things that we can do every day, driving in the car, waiting for the bus, sitting on the subway, little things that we can do to just release some of that tension?
Absolutely, absolutely. One of my favorite things to do is if something challenging happens, is just give it a little shake it out. And so, whoa, that was stressful. Even like a little something that maybe you don't you're at work or you don't want people to notice. You can just tense up all your muscles. You can kind of do that without people noticing, and then poof, relax them all.
Mm.
Tense all the muscles, and by the third time, you'll really notice you're at a different point where you've been in the past.
I have a thing I do when I can't sleep. I just sort of tap my toes together really hard, like sort of the balls of my feet, and it sort of creates like a little bit of energy and turbine. And then I'll do it, and then I'll just sort of let go, and it's like whoosh, you can sort of feel the body is just changing because there's all this energy from like not being able to fall asleep, or the mind is busy and you can't fall asleep. I love those ideas because you're right. We store so much in our bodies, or we suppress a lot. I'll deal with it later. I won't deal with it at all. I'm not going to think about it. Is there some inspiration that you can share with our viewers on ways that they can decide that this is the path they want to go to? Because some people will just say, well, this is the cards I was dealt, and this is how it is for me. And this is just, the way, it's going to be all the time. Really tuning into the fact that they can make a change or things can be different.
Sure. I mean, it comes to a point when we decide we are done suffering. Okay,
Mm.
we all experience pain, and suffering is a choice. And so I'm really inspired by Gabor Mate, and who says that the attempt to escape from pain is what creates more pain. And so most of us are living our whole lives actually running away from the things that we have been challenged by. And so if one is ready to really have a life of intention and creation, and is done suffering, done with this trauma, done with the sorrow, and ready to actually do something, and I think that is really what can propel one forward. If we're just like, we've had enough. And at that point, it requires a turning and looking and acknowledging these things that we've been running from, that we've been afraid of. And so yeah, I mean, it's challenging, but what I can say is on the other side of that is freedom.
Mm.
Freedom from suffering, freedom
Mhm.
from these patterns that have held us back, freedom from all these stories and systems that have put us in a box that we have felt trapped by. And
Mm.
so for a lot of people, the known hell is better than the unknown heaven that is
Mm.
possible in this lifetime. And
So
so, yeah,
well
just
said. So well said. That is very inspirational and so well said. It makes me think of you sharing your story in the Ignite Goddess book. You went through some difficult times and some challenges. Can you share a little bit about that process and how some of the hardships have been the catalyst, have been the trampoline towards the greatness, have been the door opening, the gate opening towards the next version of you?
Sure. Yeah, so that was a very challenging time in my life. And I would say the main reason I got there was that I didn't want my life. And so I was wanting to give all my power away. You can read, the full story, which is pretty intense, in the Ignite the Goddess book that JB produced. And what I can say is the number one thing that got me to the next level was to turn around and face my fears.
Mm.
And so being in an abusive relationship, not knowing how I would eat, where I would go, and if my physical body would be safe, I within myself felt this snapping point where I knew I was in my truth. I knew I was in my integrity, and enough was enough. And so I turned around and just was stop. No, I am in my truth. I'm in my integrity, and I refuse to live a life without that. So,
I just want to honor you. Take a deep breath because your story was so powerful. In fact, I've done 750 stories, and I remember your story very profoundly because it was one of the more difficult stories. What you had been through was very, very difficult. What I admired about you so much through the process, and even right now listening to you, is your desire for growth and your desire for clarity even in the muck, for example. It's not all perfect, it's not all exact, it's not all going to be rosy. But what I see in you, and I just want to acknowledge you, is moving through that to a better place. And it's not all perfect. I'm sure you could probably share that with anyone. There is no such thing as perfect. There is no such thing as idealistic, idyllic. There we go. Yeah, I can't even say the word because it doesn't really exist, right? How would you say that writing that story and sharing that moment and now the work that you do, how has that helped you and helped the people that you work with?
yeah, so it was very important for me to find a way of sharing this story, which would not have people pitying me or feeling bad or feeling traumatized themselves just hearing it. And so I really appreciate the support that you were able to provide in framing things in a good way. It was really what I needed to work
Mm.
through the courage to be sharing that. And what I would wanted to share is actually a framework that has helped me immensely to move
Yeah.
through these traumas of from victim consciousness to a state of empowerment, which that reframe was understanding that my soul chose the path of suffering. I made
Mm.
a conscious choice before I came into this body, into this embodiment, that I would learn certain lessons quickly. And that required going through the path of suffering. And I agreed to that so that I can have the power, so that I can have access to the pleasure, so that I can know my purpose and that I can do so in a prosperous way.
Mm.
So that reframe from the victim to this was my choice to go through that suffering. And then I made a choice not to do that anymore. And so I'm really grateful for that. And it's been a spiral. Anyone goes through immense trauma, it spirals, you get butter, something else comes up. And
Mm.
so hopefully we're spiraling around to a different point. And that's definitely been the case in my life. And what I'd say additionally to that is that as we speak of like freeing ourselves, liberating ourselves from suffering, liberating ourselves from these stories, as that there are absolutely unforgivable things that happen that other people will do to us, that we'll experience in our lives that will never, ever be okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And so, however, The practice of forgiveness, even for those who don't deserve it, is something that is for giving ourselves the freedom to move on. Okay, so in the past, having experienced severe abuse, rape, all of these things, how do you look at your rapist in your mind's eye and forgive them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. One tool that has allowed me to do this is to look at unhealthy actions and unhealthy mental states like like an illness, like the flu. So somebody with the flu that gives it to you, it's not their intention to make you sick. They have this in within them that they don't know how to not share. Okay.
Mm.
And so somebody that has gone through themselves sexual trauma, if they haven't gone through the process of reclaiming themselves, may have the tendency to perpetuate that on other people. And so, and to see these are sick people that have not had the opportunity to heal or have not had
Mm.
the strength or capacity. And so, that in that way, seeing them of their inner hurt child has allowed me to have compassion and has supported the process of forgiveness, even though I have placed a boundary within myself of never accepting that type of behavior. It is not permitted in my field, and any and all energies that are not in service of the highest good are not permitted within my um, my sphere. So that is something that I would like to share.
Just honor you so much for having the bravery to say all of that and the willingness, because thank you very much. If we're going to ignite humanity, we do need to forgive. We need to forgive ourselves. We need to forgive others. And there is so much power in forgiving. And you are correct. It's never okay. It's never right. It's never allowed. But to really step into a place of forgiveness is for you. It's for you to step through and into a better place for you. Share a little tiny bit more. Is there something that we can do, that I can do, that our viewers can do to just bring forth a tiny bit more forgiveness for big things and little things, and even for ourselves?
Sure. I think, number one step is understanding that it is for ourselves. And are we making this conscious choice to be free? Do you want to be free? We're going to have to do some forgiveness work at some point. Okay. The second thing, being understanding that we are safe now. Okay. Understanding we have boundaries now, that will not happen again. We're not allowing it to happen again. We're
Mm-hmm.
creating safety. Okay. That was another really important part. The third thing, like I already mentioned, was having compassion for the people that perpetrators are themselves hurt in a certain way and not strong enough to break the pattern.
Mm.
Yeah, so I think those are three main keys that I can think of right now. I'm sure there's more.
Absolutely. And of course, folks, you can find out more about what Reverend Rose is doing. Talk a little bit about the crown of prosperity and abundance, because I do feel like sometimes when people have been through difficulties, they accept that as their new normal, and they realize, and they don't always realize that that was that chapter, that was that moment, that was that time. And now I have the ability to do something new and have a new chapter in my life and new experiences, and you are perpetuating that in beautifully in women. Talk a little bit about that.
Absolutely. So we spoke a little bit in the introduction about the medicine of the serpent, and the serpent as an animal, spirit animal, has been really inspirational in the way that they can shed and release. And so the serpent every month will shed its entire skin and in a way be reborn in the same way that we shed our menstrual cycles every month and then are creating room for more life. And so I have done lots of practice to shed and release different thought forms, behaviors, patterns intentionally every month, just like the snake, just like the way that we shed our moon blood. And intentionally speak to what it is that I am calling in instead. And so I might be shedding my fears and stepping
Mm.
into my courage, or I might be shedding the habit of looking at my phone first thing before I have a chance to have coffee or tea and meditate. and then what is exactly that I am intending to bring in, and having that like monthly time cycle is really powerful, because it's hard to say, okay, now every day for the rest of my life, I'm going to, wake up at 6 a.m. and meditate, right? But if I can do it for 30 days, 40 days is better, then you can really set in the new patterning and habits that will create the life that you want. We all have these thought forms, behaviors, beliefs that may or may not be our own. Maybe we got it from our parents. Maybe we got it from our school. Maybe we got it from society or a TV show or a book. And it's really important as we spoke in the beginning, as this process of self-knowledge to understand, am I choosing to believe that I'm in poverty? Am I choosing to believe I have to decide between gas and milk? Am I choosing this, or is this something that was given to me by my parents or the way that I grew up? And isn't it interesting the way that our thoughts create words which are spelled out? And so as we cast spells into the universe through our thoughts, that's exactly what is shown back to us. And so it's really a matter of like taking control of our thoughts. And often people identify themselves as I am my thoughts. And that's a really a challenge for a lot of people, because I see the mind as a wild stallion sometimes. It wants to go there. Wow. Everyone's going to like me. Yes. This and that. And here we are going, everywhere. Whereas the mind is really powerful, just as the ego is very powerful and it has its time and place. However, if we can train that wild stallion to then be, a proper ridden horse, and take us where we want to under our direction. Solve this math problem, figure out how to.
So much we can do. There's so much, absolutely so much we can do. We could go on forever. As you can see, there's so much to talk about, Rose. I want to just congratulate you on the work that you've done, the personal work that you've done, the way you're helping others. Folks, if you want to know more about what Reverend Rose is up to, please check out her website and what she is doing to help you step into that greater version of you, which is absolutely going to ignite humanity. Thank you, my darling. Great job. Loved having you on the show. Blessings to you. And thank you so much. If you're going to do one thing today, folks, I'd ask that maybe you just step into the energy of forgiveness. How can you forgive someone around you? Maybe for just something small that isn't really of value anymore. No use keeping it going. Or how can you forgive yourself for something you just did because, well, you're human and that happens. If you'd like to know more what we're doing to ignite humanity and how we are stepping into our greatness, please check out our website at ignitehumanity.life, where all kinds of fun things are going on our website. And you can see how to be a part of our projects, our books, our schools, and all of the work that we are doing to ignite humanity. And if you'd like to be on the show and share what you're doing to ignite humanity, please reach out and fill out our type form. We'd love to have you and talk about how you are igniting humanity. Every single person has a beautiful and magical story, and how you take that story and that journey to help another person. Well, that's what we want to talk about. All right, blessings to you. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Now, more than ever, we need to come together to connect with one another. We need to feel the truth in who we are and let go of everything that's happened in the past. We need to empower every person on the planet and awaken hearts, enliven souls, come together, laugh, play, rejoice, connect, create, and love. It's time to ignite humanity. We want you to be a part of something that will impact the future for everyone. We want you to tell your story, share your Ignite moment, show people who you truly are. Be a part of igniting humanity and making a difference in the world and all of our futures.